Hi, everybody. So we're going to be hosting a live chat with all these students that are currently going to Duke. So we'll open it up with some introductions from each student about what they're interested in, their major, and what extracurriculars they do. And then we'll get into the questions. So my name is Heisi Young. I'm a junior. I'm studying International Comparative Studies with a visual media minor. And I'm very involved with the Catholic Center. I do a lot of work with the Duke students, social media team. And now I'm going to hand it off to Soren.
Hi guys, I'm Soren Chargois. I'm a junior studying economics and visual media studies. On campus, I am also involved with the Duke students' social media platforms, along with Alpha Delta Pi sorority and Duke Student Broadcasting, which is the student-run student group of broadcasting association on campus. Watch out for our videos. I'm also very involved in the Catholic Center and just also do a lot of homework. So, Matt?
Sure. Hi, I'm Matt King, and I am a junior from Richmond, Virginia. Am I speaking? Okay, cool. And I am really interested in politics, so I write for the Chronicle, and I founded an organization on campus called Unite, and which is sort of like an interest group for young people, totally nonpartisan, but just aiming to increase political engagement on campus. And I also sing in an a cappella group called Rhythm and Blue. So that's sort of my on-campus involvement. And I'm a political science major.
Hi. Am I on? Okay. So my name is Anya. I'm a sophomore studying psychology and computer science, and I'm from Hartsville, South Carolina. I'm really interested in business, so on campus I'm involved with business-oriented women. I'm also part of Greek Life, and I work with the Duke Authenticity Project.
Great. So I guess we're going to dive right into the first question. The first question is, how have you found a community/family at Duke? So I'll open up to whoever wants to start in on this one. Matthew, do you want to? Oh, Soren. Okay.
I can just start with this. I have found that at Duke, so I come from Great Falls, Montana, which is basically Canada, like way up north. Absolutely. Okay, one person. There's one other person from Montana that goes to Duke. So I didn't come from one of those states that has a ton of students. I had no one from my high school, no one from within 700 miles of my high school. But I was able to go in, and first week, orientation week, is just it's really vital. You know, you get out there and you start meeting people. Orientation week is like the first week before classes start, that like all of you freshmen are on campus, like hanging out, meeting your hallmates in your dorms, meeting friends through certain just groups, you guys. And then as you keep getting older, you're going to start joining clubs and whatnot. And I just found, so what I consider family at Duke is like, I found it in the Catholic Center, and Haisa can attest to this too. And that's just my personal group. But we kind of, and of course, like I have a group in the Catholic Center, but I also have with my Greek life affiliation, with my just multiple other clubs, and then just friends that I know. It's absolutely, you know, having the Duke family is really real. I mean, especially when it comes to, I feel like when it comes to like Blue Devils, being fans of the Blue Devils, basketball, football, soccer, everything, we really come together, and there's nothing better. I truly feel that. If someone wants to add to that.
Sure. I think for me, where I found family at Duke is really with my a cappella group, Duke Rhythm and Blue. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, etc. And we're a co-ed a cappella group, and I think that we really represent a great cross-section of campus. Folks come from the US and from all over the world, and it's a diverse group of people. It's one of those places where you bump into people from all different viewpoints, and even though you're there for the purpose of making music, you end up having conversations on the side with these new friends that you've made about, social change and about different topics that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise have. So I think wherever you go, you have the chance to find a group that will represent not just people like you, but will allow you to engage with difference as well.
Great. So quick note to everybody watching. Just so you know, if you have questions and you want to chime in and ask us things, you can comment on the comment section on YouTube, and we'll try and answer as many as we can in the time we have. So on to the next question. How has Duke's community challenged you and your perspectives, and how have you contributed to the conversation? Anya, do you want to address this one?
Yeah, I'd love to. One of the organizations I'm a part of is focused on women's leadership. And so I've had a lot of leadership surrounded by a bunch of female leaders who experience leadership in completely different contexts. So I have a lot of experience in business and organizations, but I met women in STEM, women going into medicine, in politics. And it's not so much that I felt challenged, but rather just sort of encouraged to grow my experiences and my ideas of what it means to be a leader and just getting involved on campus. And it was really nice to be able to have conversations and not just speech around things going on campus or in just like the world in general about, what's going on and how people feel about it, so that it's not just sort of this echo chamber, but actually getting to hear what other people think.
Yeah, I have a different perspective on this. My first week or so at Duke, I was in a focus class. Focus is an intensive freshman seminar experience. And to give you a little background on myself, politically, I tend to be more right-leaning, more like conservative identifying as a student. And I was in a class with a pretty liberal professor, and he was talking about how we should have more protests at Duke. And he was giving an example of a speaker who came to Duke that he thought should have been protested by students. And I sort of challenged him and gave a different perspective. And this is like the first week of classes. And I was really worried that it would maybe like to have disagreed like so publicly and in front of all my peers with my professor would have maybe hurt our relationship or hurt my grade or something like that. But in fact, it was the opposite. He had even more respect for me after that experience. And we keep in touch. And he's one of my favorite professors that I've had over my time here. And we're able to have these great wide-ranging conversations, not only despite of, but maybe because of our differences. He holds office hours, and I go in every semester or so and try to keep in touch with him and hear what he's thinking about everything that's going on in the world. And as of late, we found ourselves agreeing more than we disagree, which is also interesting considering where we came in.
Okay, so now the next question is from Marche. How was the transition from high school to college? I can probably start this one off. For me, I found that the hardest part was being homesick, of course, but Duke does this really great thing where orientation week is so intense and so busy that you literally have barely any time to just stop and think about, oh, I miss home, because you're doing so many fun things and meeting so many people. And then right after school starts, it's just, you keep going. So I think that was the hardest part for me. But as far as academically, I was in the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program, and I also did some AP classes. And I found that those really helped prepare me. The rigor of those classes really matches Duke's. Of course, Duke is slightly harder because you're learning kind of more complex things, and you have to learn and discuss in different ways than you're used to. But I think that if you've done those harder classes and you're kind of pushing yourself, you'll be okay when you get to Duke. If anyone else wants to join in.
I can add on to that. So going to Duke, I was coming from a small school. There were 32 other students in my whole class. There was like 114 in my school at the time. So as you can imagine, it was definitely different. And I was kind of expecting it from the very beginning, but getting there, and then I think realizing like all of the, and it's really cool. You just meet so many awesome people, and like Duke students, we're extraordinary. And it's not about like grades or like how many extracurriculars we did in high school at all. It's people who like are coming from literally all over the world and all over the United States and they're all coming together, and no one else really knows what they're doing either. Like, this is the first time they're away from home. So this transition, you're not doing it alone at all. And I don't think for some students, definitely it's harder than for others. But I also found, I mean, as far as socially goes, that pretty much covers it. Academically, it's a whole different ballgame in my situation, I think. But I think the one thing, I mean, you're going to fail your first test probably. And some of you won't, but I did. Like my first 4, I think. So, but you just have to really just readapt. You have to change.
And you're still here? You didn't die?
What?
I said, and you failed your first test and you didn't die? You're still with us?
I'm here. I am breathing. I'm enjoying life still. Like I can still smile, guys. Okay, it's okay. You're gonna fall, and you know everyone else is doing it too. So you got it. That's what I say. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different perspective on it because I went to boarding school before I came to Duke, so didn't really have the homesickness as much, but definitely the academics, I think, speak a lot to just also the variety of Duke's experiences. Like I went to a STEM-focused high school, so I thought I was going to be an engineer for the longest time, then realized very quickly that I was not going to do that and really wanted to explore my other options. So I also did a focus program, like Matthew was mentioning, during my freshman year, took electives in virtually every department, I feel like. And now that I'm settling on a major, still getting the chance to explore so many different things in the classroom and with people just through experiences and clubs and talking to my friends who are studying everything from engineering to ICS to political science and so on.
Thanks, Anya. So the next question is from Kira Lawson and also a little bit from Jay Fisher. They wanted to know what is the political scene like on Duke's campus, and Jay Fisher wants to know about diversity in political opinions on campus as well.
All right, I'll hop on here since I'm the designated political junkie in this call, I guess. But anyway, I had a blast this past semester working with the different political groups on campus, the student political groups, to organize debate watch parties for the presidential election. So we put together, the second presidential debate fell over fall break, but for all the other ones, for the 2 presidential debates and the VP debate, we did a watch party at the Devil's Craft House, which is a restaurant at the bottom of our wonderful new dining facility, West Union. And we got funding from a bunch of different organizations on campus to provide free food, and we brought in speakers from all sorts of different ideological orientations, professors who volunteer their time to speak before the event to sort of bring us together. And they were co-sponsored by the college Republicans, the college Democrats, the there's a political union on campus, there's a Alexander Hamilton Society, and Unite co-sponsored it. So we were able to get a bunch of different groups together for a common goal. And then the same thing happened again with voter registration. So at the behest of a bunch of lobbying by student groups, Duke student government approved a wonderful online voter registration platform called TurboVote. And then there were also student interns for a nonpartisan political center called Polis on campus. And they were heavily involved with registering students to vote. And then we even organized on-campus early voting, working with administration to do that. And we organized rides to the polls. So students were driving other students to the polls, which is really, really cool to see how the whole campus came together, no matter who you were voting for, to get people to the polls and to make sure that people could vote on election day. And if you look back at the Duke Chronicle editorial pages, the opinion pages, you'll see the various views on display before the election and after the election from Duke's student body.
Great, thanks, Matt. And then Brooke has asked, how accepting is the student body of the LGBTQ community? So I have a little experience because I just had a friend come out. And the entire experience that he's had coming out and being in Duke's community, he was, of course, obviously very nervous coming from California, which is like his area was super accepting, so he was worried that Duke wouldn't be. But overwhelmingly, every single person that he's told or talked to or discussed this with has been a lot of just love and support. And he's not the only person that I've seen come out while I've been at Duke. I've had multiple friends come out, and it's just been a really positive experience where everyone's just kind of really accepting and okay with it, and just want to be there and support them. And we're all proud and happy. And Duke has like a really great LGBTQ community, and I love going to the Pride Parade every year, and it's really one of like the highlights of my year, just because of like how much fun and like accepting and like love there is in the entire environment going through that. Does anyone else want to add to this? No? Okay. So the next question is from Elena. I'm sorry if I mispronounce names. How difficult was it for you to adjust to a new environment and find a solid living support group? Anyone? Soren?
Oh, I can. I unmuted myself. I kind of just touched on this like 10 minutes ago. Coming to Duke, especially from like a place where there's not, I mean, a whole lot of people generally don't even leave the state for college. I got there, and again, like Haisa said, you get there and the whole first week, orientation week, you don't even have time to like realize what's going on. Things are just happening one after another, and you're super involved. Everyone else, there's like 10 people every year who come to Duke with their friends, and like everyone else doesn't. So like everyone else is trying to find friends. I think it's absolutely easy to assimilate. Again, speaking from personal experience and those of like hundreds of people that I've met and seen, that it is definitely, I think it's not difficult. The environment is very like welcoming. Like Duke also sets it up so that if you want to meet people, you will meet people like you, and people who aren't like you. So I think, but Duke, I think specifically does a really good job at that. I just got back from abroad. I was studying in London. I got back like yesterday, and I noticed one of the huge differences between the school I was at there and my school here, Duke, was like they don't do anything to like get the students together and like get them to like meet each other and like talk and have conversations. Whereas Duke, I felt like from day one and then continuing, throughout the year, they really do a good job in getting people together and like getting people friends and stuff. Friends are good. Yeah, so it's good. Anyone else?
Well, actually, you could probably answer the next question, Soren. I don't know if anyone else is from the North, but Tiffany Johnson asked, for students not from the South, how different is the adjustment?
Considering I'm from basically Canada, the adjustment, I wouldn't say it's much of a problem at all, except for the warmer weather. Thank God. It's like actually 10 degrees outside of my house right now. I cannot wait to be back in North Carolina. I'm very excited. But as far as, transition, there isn't much of a difference. For the record, like Southern hospitality is such a thing. I feel like I think everybody can agree with me. I think it's true. There's just a sense of like community and like sense of like we're wanted there. Like I feel like the Durham community, and I think we're going to talk about this later possibly, but the Durham community, it's not like there's Duke and then there's Durham. I feel like sometimes, I feel like in a lot of ways it kind of comes together and like they're very welcoming of us. So I think it's something to look forward to, especially if you're coming from a place like I came from, like 60,000 people, which isn't terribly small, but then coming to a bigger city and then experiencing the hugely diverse culture that is Duke, and then Durham outside of that is really, really great.
Yeah, I would just add that coming from Richmond, Virginia, which is pretty southern to Duke, it almost feels like I'm going to the north in a way. And there's one of the nicknames of Duke is the State University of New Jersey in Durham. So I would just say that you'd be surprised by what at least on campus, like what a cross section of America it is. And then, of course, like Durham is a southern city, and same goes for North Carolina. But Duke itself is pretty much its own place.
Great. So the next question is from Sarah. Is there a lot of pressure to perform well at Duke? For example, Soren, did people make you feel bad for not doing well on the first test? Are people really competitive or more collaborative?
I was mentioned by name. I feel so special. I'll really quickly. Did people make me feel bad about not doing well? No. Like, so this is the one thing I tell everybody. I tell all my friends from school this. All my friends from home this, and like Duke, that question about collaborative versus competitive is really important, especially when you're getting up in these like higher level institutions like the Ivy Leagues or the Ivy of the South, whatever. There's a lot of competition. Like I've heard stories from people at Stanford and Yale. I've got friends up there, people stealing notes, people stealing notes, throwing them away. Friends like promising they'll like take notes and then refuse to give them to their friends. There's nothing like that there. Like you will see, this is my favorite some of my favorite memories of freshman year is everybody on my floor gathering in the common room, and everybody would just sit down there and help each other with homework. They'd help each other with math. They'd help each other with like understanding like biology stuff. It was absolutely awesome. And I'm not exaggerating at all. Like it's just the way it is. I feel like there's such a collaborative nature. If I see a friend in the library, even if I don't know him that well, like I think of one specific, like there's a guy who was in one of my finance classes, impossible. His name was Jake, and we like barely talked ever, but like I was studying for the finals and I really could not get this like concept through my head. And I just like went over and I was like, hey, like, I know you're really good at this. Can you explain it to me? And he was like, of course, like, yeah, you should have come over earlier. So, and that's pretty descriptive of how I know most of Duke is, if not all. So yeah. Anything else? Someone want to add something to that?
I can definitely chime in on that one. I had a similar experience freshman year with a couple classes just being really difficult and facing a lot of challenges. And one thing that I really remember was early in the semester, I think it was my first midterm in like Econ 101 or something. And it was like notoriously hard and a lot of people struggled, and I felt like I had just completely bombed the test. And a guy I knew from my dorm who I talked to once or twice ended up sitting on the bus with me on the way back to East and saw that I was upset and was like, oh, like, you know, what's going on? Are you okay? And I explained to him that the test was just not a great time. And he hardly knew me and offered like the next time we had the test come around to sit down and study with me. We worked through every problem set together leading up to the test. Like honestly, just so nice from someone I didn't even know. And that's continued like this year in one of my classes. I had a friend who's a TA who volunteered like 4 hours of her time the night before a big assignment that she wasn't getting paid for just to help me out. Like just talking to so many people who want to see other people do well, whether the class is curved or not, making sure that everyone is just getting like the material, and honestly like making friends through like staying up with people till 4 a.m. before a midterm, or getting to know like all sorts of people who are taking the class and like all the different ways that people help each other out. Honestly, like no matter how hard a class is, you can always count on your classmates to help you out, and that makes it so much better.
Great. I know you can probably address the next question too. Alina wants to know, is it common to find people not interested in the political world? So far, it seems like everybody has a pretty strong opinion of their own. Just wondering if there are also people who are neutral. Wait, I think she says. Well, I guess I could answer a little bit. I came into Duke being very completely uneducated on politics just because I had my head shoved in a book studying chemistry most of high school. So for me, I was pretty intensely not new to that type of scene. And so, yes, it's totally possible to find people that aren't super interested in the political world. I feel like Duke really creates an environment where people are open to talk to you about it. So maybe you might come in not being interested, and then you'll find people that are so intensely interested that you kind of want to be interested because they'll talk to you about it, and then you're like, wow, this is so fascinating. But most of the time, I find myself like asking Matt, what does this mean? What is happening with this? So yeah, it's definitely possible to find people that are not super intensely politically driven. Anya, do you want to chime in now?
Hey guys, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's very much just like the rest of Duke in that you get as much out of it as you want. So I have a lot of friends who are super politically involved, who, you know, before and after the election were out there getting people to vote, rallying around certain candidates. And then I had a lot of friends who were just kind of going with it, like willing to share their opinions, but very much just watching what was going on. I think definitely, like, given that it was an election year and a presidential election year, like, you see a lot of conversation around it. It very much does consume a lot of campus, but by no means was I like struggling to find someone who wanted like to talk about anything else. So I've had an experience where like a lot of my friends are not super politically opinionated, but it's very much if I wanted to have that conversation, I could go seek out people at an election watch party or just go into my common room and find someone who really wanted to talk about it.
Great. So next question is from Allison Murphy. Do you know anyone who has participated in research, and how easy was it for them to get involved? Matthew, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. It looked like we had a lot of research questions. So I think we'll just combine them. I think Raksha had a question about this too. And just talk about them generally. Duke has a flagship undergraduate research program that's really, really cool called Bass Connections. And I'm just going to save that and let Anya talk about it in a second, because I'm going to talk about more like unconventional or off the beaten path opportunities. First things first, being a research assistant. This is an awesome gig if you can get it. Find a professor that you really like and something that really interests you, and you can sort of just email them, ask them if they need help, and chances are you might get hired as a research assistant and get to do like research tasks for them, a lot of writing for them. I have a good friend who is RAing, research assisting for one of my favorite professors who's also my academic advisor. That's one opportunity. Another thing is if you just sort of keep your eyes peeled, you'll find opportunities. I took advantage of advising at Duke, and there is a director of academic engagement for the humanities, because I'm sort of more on the social sciences and humanities side of things and less on the science or math side. And Dr. Odendahl James, who's the advisor for the humanities, found this awesome research project for me that I could sort of hop onto called the Language of Genocide project. And that was a interdisciplinary group of undergrads, graduate students, and professors who were all doing their own little research projects related to this broad theme of the language of genocide. And I was able to research the Rwandan genocide and look at original source documents from radio broadcasts in Rwanda, and present a paper on that at a conference in Duke my first year here, my freshman year. And then because of that, I was on a listserv, and in my sophomore year, I was able to go to Israel to present a paper on the Holocaust and the role of artists in the Nazi genocide against the Jews and other European minorities. So that's an example of how one research opportunity can really snowball into another. So they really are out there, and the good news is there's also grant money out there in different pockets of the university for you if you're just willing to take the initiative and apply for it. So very, very easy to do, and it's a whole lot of fun too.
Yeah, I can talk about Bass Connections a little bit. It's an interdisciplinary research program for undergraduates and graduate students, and there's a bunch of different fields in terms of like whether you want to do something more STEM related or more humanities related. And I kind of fell into my project. Traditionally, Bass is opened up to freshmen in the spring that you can apply for your sophomore year, but mine grew out of the flooding that occurred in South Carolina due to Hurricane Joaquin in 2015. And so a bunch of people in the Social Sciences Research Institute decided that they wanted to do some research surrounding a lot of different psychological and economic and environmental factors in South Carolina because of these floods, and basically just shot a bunch of email listservs saying, hey, if you want students on the Bass team, please join, we're leaving in January. And I got this email in like November, thought, wow, I would love to see my home state from the point of view of a researcher, and given that I was at Duke while this was happening and while the hurricanes were going on, I wanted to know what kind of impact it had had. And so literally applied, got in a couple weeks later, and then my last week of Christmas break found myself in the Duke University Research Mobile, which is basically like a jacked up RV that has a bunch of research equipment and some rooms. And I spent a week with a couple undergrads, a graduate student, and 2 professors interviewing people throughout South Carolina, through Columbia, and just getting to present. I talked at the Education and Human Development talks at Duke. We had one of our team members present at a North Carolina conference this semester. It was just a really great experience, and honestly, not something I thought I would get to do my second semester as a freshman, and a really great way to meet people on campus and to get to talk to graduate students and make really, really close relationships with professors.
Great. So the next question is from Ian Miles. He says, I applied early decision and got in, and now I'm just wondering, how can I best utilize all of the incredible opportunities at Duke to achieve my dreams? So I guess first of all, congrats. And second of all, Duke has so many opportunities.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your answer, Haisa, but yeah.
Welcome. No, we should all be like welcoming. I guess Duke has like so many opportunities, and the first thing they told me at convocation was like, even if you wanted to, it's impossible to utilize everything. So I guess really the way I did it was I came in and kind of tried to focus what I was interested in, and then from there are advisors for like everything. And you can just go and like talk to people, and also like talk to your classmates and talk to upperclassmen, because they are the ones that really know like how to do what you really want or what opportunities there are, and then you can just find your way through that to see like what you really like and what you want to participate more in. We also have an activities fair in the beginning of the year that all the first years get to go to, and it's basically the entire East Campus quad is covered in tables full of the different clubs and activities and sports, and if you can't find something you like there, it's practically impossible. And so there's a ton of different things you could do there as well. Does anyone else want to chime in on this? No? Okay. Then the next question is from Ten Khan. What is the workload like? How many classes do you guys take every semester, and how do you decide which classes to take? Up for anyone.
So I can answer this. So the average workload is 4 credits, which is we have a one credit per class system. Some schools have like 4 to 5 credits per class. It's kind of difficult. We have 4. Most people take 4. If you overload, you can take up to, I think, is it up to 6 in a semester? 6, which is wow.
Yeah, 6 you have to get approved though, because it's
you have to get approved. Yeah, you have to get approved. All workout like physical education classes are a half a credit, and up to 2 of those can go towards your overall cumulative amount of credits that you take at Duke, which is awesome. I think that's actually a good idea. Just I've always liked adding a physical education class because it gets you to the gym, which is nice. But so yeah, 4 credits, 5 or 6 if you want to overload. The workload, it's going to be more than high school. At least I've actually talked to students. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to this. I've talked to students who say that it's like about the same as high school. Not in my situation at all. I mean, I was in high school coming home and did homework for maybe, an hour or 2 after school, and then like ate dinner and fell asleep.
Oh my God, I didn't sleep in high school.
No, it switched over for me. But at Duke, I've noticed, I mean, it's definitely a lot more work. The course load it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It's going to be difficult. You're with like some of the brightest students in the country, and they're going to challenge you, and it's going to be hard, but it's so worth it in the end. And it's really, I mean, again, like I keep saying, everyone's like in the same boat. But the workload is definitely going to be different for most people than what they're used to. And it is completely possible, though. It is possible to hold a good GPA and still go out once or twice a week with your friends, or have a night off where you just chill and watch Netflix and eat takeout. So really, it's absolutely possible. It's just the next step. It's the next step from high school. So it's pretty great, though.
Great. The next question, we're getting a lot of questions about Duke Engage versus Duke Immerse versus Study Abroad, and basically what all of them are. And I guess we can each of us could touch on maybe one we're familiar with. We can start with Duke Engage. So just generally, Duke Engage is a program that you apply to, and it's funded by, I believe, the Melinda Gates Foundation. And so it's completely paid for, and so if you get to go to any place in the country or abroad, and you do community service work. I personally did a domestic program in New York City, which was focused on women's issues and gender issues. And so each area has its own specific thing. And so I went and got to work with lower income communities and helped create curriculum for schools that didn't have after school programs. So for me, it was a really great opportunity to go to a different place in the US that I had never visited. But other students like Anya, she got to go to a different country. So you can talk about your experiences with that.
So I actually had a domestic experience and an international experience with my Duke Engage through the Duke Engage Durham program. There are two hybrid programs, Durham and Tucson, Arizona to Mexico. And basically you spend half of your experience in one location and then half in the other. And so I did the Duke Engage Durham, which was focused on economic and community development. So I spent the first 6 weeks of my summer in Durham, North Carolina, staying on Central Campus and working with economic development and youth in the city. We spent our weekends learning about the city a lot more than just what you do as a freshman or as a student in terms of going to 9th Street or maybe seeing a show at the American Tobacco campus. We really got to learn about the history of Duke and Durham. And it was just a really cool way to learn about the city. And I swear by that program to this day, literally always drag my friends out into Durham every single weekend. So had a really great time with that, and then spent 4 weeks in England in a city also called Durham, working on similar issues, but in homelessness there. So again, learning about the environment, something that you see in all the Duke Engages, really getting to know the community that you're serving.
All right, and then about Duke Immerse, I have not done it, but I'm interested in it, and it is a really special program that is honestly pretty unique to Duke. So far as I know, I don't know of another university that has a program quite like it. And you take a cluster of 4 classes all together with the same people and the same professors, and together you explore a theme. So some of the themes are civil rights, global refugee crisis, education, the environment. And what you get to do is you can travel for about a month of this away from Duke's campus with that same set of professors and students to go to places. So there's one comparing civil rights in the American South and in South Africa. And it's an amazing chance to spend time in a setting and actually get to know the place that you've been learning about and see how the struggles for freedom and equality and justice played out in one place or another. And they get to meet incredible people. Like in South Africa, the students regularly get to meet with Desmond Tutu, which is just insane that undergraduates have that kind of opportunity. And same goes for the refugee program. They get to work in Jordan, just hundreds of miles, with parents' permission, of course, from the refugee crisis emanating in Syria, and do really, really meaningful work helping to document the experiences of refugees in the Middle East.
And then,
Soren, do you want to touch on Study Abroad?
yeah, I'll sorry, speaking of study abroad, I just came back with a bad cold from it. But so I did just do study abroad. I spent, junior fall's the time when most people go abroad. Some people, Haisa and Matthew, both of them are going abroad in the spring, this coming spring. They're really excited about that. But the process pretty much goes, you probably have a couple meetings. You have a couple meetings with the somebody from the global education office. And you'll talk to them kind of about what you're looking for. Are you looking for a place that has lots of Duke students and you just want to experience a different culture, or do you want to completely immerse yourself in a completely different culture that doesn't speak English and you're just going to have to figure out your way? Big city, small city, rural, urban. You figure out all these questions and really what do you want to study there? What requirements do you want to get out of the way? Are you really focusing on doing your major while you're abroad? Are you trying to get some of those hard econ classes out of the way? Or are you going there more for fun, or not for fun, but more to like get some of your general requirements out of the way? So after speaking with Carolyn Koval, she's wonderful. She was my global education advisor. We narrowed it down to two. It was London, England, or Limerick, Ireland. One very, very urban, London, and one very rural, which was Ireland. I ended up going with London, and I couldn't be happier. So I went there. I took 4 classes, just like I would at Duke. They all counted towards requirements for Duke. You just have to apply. It's just one form. You send it in to your dean, and he or she says, yeah, this can count. Oh, no, this can't count. And then how much it counts for. Most people do take this is kind of just a hack every Duke student knows. They take some of the harder classes for their majors abroad just because it helps their GPA, I imagine. Not that I didn't. But but abroad's amazing. I mean, you're getting out into the world. And if you go to Europe, lots of people go to Europe. I think that's generally the destination most Duke students aim for. You're traveling so much cheaper there. You really can get all over the world. And I've done the most growing, I think, ever. I did spend 2 years at Duke, and that like started it. But this last, 3 months I've spent abroad has just like totally widened my perspective on the world. I mean, to get out of the Duke bubble is awesome. I love it. But it's also really important, I think, to get out of there and study abroad. The opportunity of study abroad really allows for that. So, yeah.
Great. So Barbara has a question about internship opportunities, and I think Anya can touch on this.
Yeah, so I'm a work study student who works at the Career Center, and so I get to learn a lot about the different programs that they offer relating to internships and different things. And one of the really big things is that the counselors are very interested in getting to know students one-on-one and really learning about what you want out of an internship. So the Career Center is super focused on telling your story and making sure that everything you do contributes to your Duke experience. So I have this career counselor who I go see quite a bit, and she'll sit down with me and say, okay, what are you interested in? More importantly, why are you interested in it? And then we'll sit and talk about that, find what sort of is the best fit. And I remember leaving her office before December with a laundry list of companies that I could apply to that share my interests, my values. And that's a very general way to do it, right? If you're interested in engineering, you can go there. If you're interested in pre-med, there's all sorts of different options. I also know there are students who work with a professor or a department, something through their major, and can find out about that as well. Once you declare a major, you can be put on a listserv for that department, and they'll send you opportunities through there as well.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Ryan has a question for Soren about internships, and because he has similar interests to you. So, wait, Soren, we can't hear you.
There you go. If you recently joined, I am doing an interdepartmental major of economics and visual media studies. So as far as internships go, I never, ever since coming to Duke, actually, I mean, I came into Duke wanting the corner office at the top of a building, just like sitting at a desk all day. But that's totally changed since I came to Duke, which I think is really awesome. And I think it's even more awesome that Duke has provided me the opportunities to pursue the interests that don't include sitting in an office. which, for some people, that's totally their thing. That's absolutely okay. In addition to my major, I'm also doing the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Certificate, which is one of the newest certificates at Duke. It's completely portfolio based. It's really awesome. And we get emails once a week. It's just like a listserv email that has like job opportunities on it. And one day I found one that really, really just struck a chord with me, struck an interest within me. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I applied. I ended up applying and getting it. It's a clothing brand. It's an ethical and sustainable clothing brand for new mothers. It's run by a Duke alumna. And her and I have had this like really great relationship. I do all of their social media and marketing. She's put me in charge of completely marketing this brand. It's a recently patented product. And I'm doing and it's all, I'm dealing with the money that goes along with it, what works for the viewers, what makes people buy, what makes people click on posts and whatnot. So I've definitely, and that would have not happened if it hadn't been for the connections I made through Duke. We also have something really interesting if you're interested in the entrepreneurship / art media side. It's called Demand. It's Duke. It's called Demand Weekend. It's media,
Duke
arts,
Entertainment Media
Arts
Network
networking event. Thank you, Matt. Awesome.
Yeah.
Demand Weekend is really awesome. It's set up by Artstigators, and you'll see about Artstigators when you get on campus. It's like Duke's art community. But it pretty much brings in alumni from all over the world, brings in Duke alumni from all over the world. And they give seminars through this whole weekend, seminars and talks and one-on-one lunch conversations and whatnot. And these are great opportunities, not only to learn, but to connect and to network. So yeah, really whatever your interests are. A lot of people do choose the, banking, iBanking and stuff. I don't even know what it means. But they totally know that there are options for, all across the board of what your interests might be.
Great. So a quick note, someone asked about engineers studying abroad. It is harder to study abroad as an engineer just because Duke has a lot of a much more structured system for engineers, but it's definitely possible. You just have to really kind of plan ahead of time, maybe save your like arts and maybe languages and other things like social sciences for the semester you want to study abroad. But otherwise, it's pretty possible to do it. But you have some limitations. Most students that are engineers go to Australia because that's the biggest place that Duke accepts the transfer credits for. But it's definitely possible still. Moving forward, we're going to transition to student life now. McKenna wants to know, can you please talk about living at Duke, dorms, and food? Is anyone really excited to talk about food or dorms? Anya? You were just there, so, because she's a sophomore, so.
Yeah, I can talk about dorms and Marketplace, I guess, a little bit in the freshman experience. I lived in Gilbert Adams, which is one of the biggest dorms on East Campus, but the sizes of the dorms really vary. And it also sort of shapes the kind of connection and community that you have with your dorm. But I believe there's 12 dorms, don't quote me on that. But on East Campus, they're all really close together. As Soren mentioned earlier, having freshmen all in one place means that you get to meet so many people in your year very quickly. And you all can hang out in your common rooms within your dorm. That's a really big place to meet people your first few weeks. Most of the rooms are doubles. I believe some dorms have a few triples and all of them have a single or two. Jarvis is the substance-free dorm. And then there's one for the arts community. And I believe, and then Marketplace is the eating area on East Campus. And so Trinity Cafe is under that. And that's a really cool space where people do performances and poetry and music, as well as just hang out and study. And then Marketplace is basically just this sort of all you can eat. You have food swipes, which let you in for breakfast and dinner and brunches on the weekends. And then you use food points, which are part of the meal plan, for lunch, which is a la carte. And again, it's a very freshman only sort of area. So you will see upperclassmen come in sometimes at lunch, but almost all freshmen will eat on campus for breakfast and dinner. And it's a great way to meet.
East Campus is all first year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'll see that. And then Marketplace hosts some really great events for like Thanksgiving dinner, holiday dinner. They do one that's Disney themed, and those are huge as well.
Let's not forget that Duke was just rated #1 in the country for the best student food plan ever. So come to Duke, because how awesome is that?
So have you been to West Union yet?
I haven't.
Because you were abroad. You're in for a pleasant surprise. You're gonna be like swiping your card, and people are gonna be looking at you funny because you're gonna be doing it wrong because it's so fancy.
Oh, it's so good. We have a sushi bar and crepes.
Crepes. Oh, the crepes are so good.
It's really bad because now I have to like really consistently go to the gym because there's just too many junk food things available.
And then there's also a fancy restaurant at the top of West Union where you can flunch your professor. Flunch faculty lunch is a fun program at Duke where the student government gives you $100 every semester to take professors out to lunch. So really great options for that program now. Anything else about West Union?
Go Duke.
I guess it should be noted that it's really good about having a ton of options, even if you have like a ton of dietary restrictions. Because I'm allergic to nuts and lactose intolerant and have to eat healthy because of like high cholesterol. It's like genetic, and I'm still able to like eat a ton of different variety of foods. And if you're vegan, there's tons of things available. Yes, and vegetables. So I guess Duke just does a really good job of like catering to everything. Our next question is from Abrielle. Can you talk about your experience with dorm life? How far away are freshman dorms from classes? I can touch a little bit on this. So East Campus, as Matthew said, is only first years. But classes are all over Duke. So you can have some on Central, which is a little bit more rare. And then you have some on East Campus, and you have most on West Campus. So it really depends where your classes are, and it'll say that as well when you're registering for classes. So when you're planning your schedule, you'll be able to see like, okay, can I make it from one end of West Campus to all the way on East Campus? And that's how you kind of like figure out your schedule. And so that's kind of how you determine how to like set up your life.
I'll just hop on that real quick. You can get from like any point on West Campus back to East Campus or vice versa in 25 minutes during the day with the bus system. There's an east-west bus system because the two campuses are about a mile apart. And in my freshman year, I had a class on West, like far back Science Drive, like behind the hill. And I would have to get out of there at a certain time at like 12:50 or 1 o'clock, and then get to East Campus by 1:25. And so that would involve like trekking up this hill past the chapel, hopping on a bus. But I always got to this class on East Campus right by my dorm, actually, at 1:25. So things are really, during the day when all the buses are running really frequently, it's very, very easy to get from one class to another. And
can you explain a little bit more, Matt, about transportation? Like kind of explain what Duke does?
Yeah, so there is a bus system, is the main one that is linking East and West Campus, and then there's also buses going to Central Campus. We have a bus that goes to UNC. If you have a class, you can dual enroll in classes over there, and some academic programs are also at UNC. And then there's also Duke vans for after hours. When the buses are running less frequently, there's a number you can dial for that. And then for students with disabilities, there are also a variety of services and vans you can use. And all of the buses are also wheelchair accessible. They have a way to lower down to the curb for wheelchairs as well. So it's a very accessible campus in terms of the transportation system. Also bikes. There are new bike racks all over thanks to renovations on campus.
Okay, we have a question from Corey that's asking, can you tell us about the CAPS program? Does anyone here have experience with it or know about it a little bit better than me?
I can talk about CAPS. So CAPS is counseling and psychological services. at Duke University, at Duke. So pretty much, so Duke has made major strides in the past couple of years about the destigmatization of mental illness. So I'm going to be real open with you guys right now. I came into Duke and thought everything was like, I thought I was like great. I was on top of the world. And then my second semester, really out of nowhere, I started having like this kind of anxiety, this really like crippling anxiety where I like really wouldn't want to get out of bed. And then like once I was out, I really wouldn't want to get back in bed. And after realizing like this wasn't normal, and like and after talking to some friends and be like, okay, like I got to do something about it. So I went and ended up talking to a woman, psychiatrist at CAPS, and she was awesome. I like still go back and see her. I don't need to anymore, but she's awesome. But pretty much what they're there for is anything from, you know, homesickness. You talked about homesickness, anxiety, depression, eating disorders. In addition to CAPS, eating disorders is also covered. We have a really great dietitian program where you can have like your personal dietitian. Like, who gets a personal dietitian along with like tuition? That's awesome. You can go there if you've been experienced sexual assault. CAPS pretty much covers just about everything that you might need any kind of counselor or psychological help for. It's really great. And there's what I've noticed, there's zero stigma about it. Like, there's never been any shame in me being like, oh, I have a CAPS appointment. Sorry, can't come. And there's like, I mean, people aren't like, it's nothing there. I really don't think there's much of a stigma. I think Duke's done a really amazing job at saying, like at making sure the students respect and understand mental illness in a way that kind of brings us all together. We're really good. But yeah, so CAPS is really positive. They have access is really easy. It's right on Main Quad. They actually just put it by in the new Student Health Center, which is actually almost easier to find. It's a giant glass building. I think it's impossible to miss. So yeah, it's really good.
Great, thanks, Soren. And yeah, what she was mentioning is the new Student Health Center is this humongous building. It's super accessible. It's right near West Union, the Bryan Center, and it's going to house all like student health things, CAPS. So it's really like a one-stop thing where you have all the resources you need for anything health related. So you don't have to be running around campus for different things.
Yeah,
so
and if I can
go ahead. Yeah.
just chime in real quick about Soren mentioned the nutritionists and the nutritional services, and that's super helpful whether you have an eating disorder or not. I think it's great to go visit and just talk about finding healthy food options on campus. And if you like know that you need more protein in your diet because you're lifting or you're working out or whatever, like it is great to go see the nutritionists, and they're very helpful. And that's all like, you know, one of those like understated awesome services that Duke provides for student wellness.
Yeah. So the next question is from Jonah. What is unique about Duke and your favorite part of Duke every day? Are there any hidden gems on campus incoming students should know about? This one is open to anyone. Maybe, Anya, do you want to touch base on this one?
Yeah, so as cliche as it sounds, my favorite thing is definitely the relationships I formed on campus. You'll always hear people talking about how amazing Duke students are, and that's the absolute truth. But I've actually made some amazing relationships with faculty on campus. Not just my professors, but I guess a hidden gem I advocate for is the LDSA, or Leadership Development and Social Action Office. And they are quite possibly some of the best people I met freshman year, because in that sort of activities fair rush of I want to join everything and meet everyone and, you know, completely maximize my freshman year, they help you break that down into something a little more realistic and not being on 500 email listservs. And so I met some amazing people. The associate director there gets smoothies with me once a month, and we just catch up on life, and she's connected me to some amazing people on campus. And so I think like the biggest thing about Duke for me that's sort of been irreplaceable in terms of what I got out of it is that the relationships that you make without realizing what they'll do for you are the ones that do the most for you. Whether that's like learning from your friends or meeting someone in like the Catholic Center or at the LDSA or anywhere on campus, become resources for you, become friends for you. And I have loved that so much. And whenever people ask me about like why Duke, it always comes back to those people.
Great. Anyone else want to touch on that? Any other secret hidden gems that we should share?
Yeah, I love spaces and I love photography. So
Yes, Matt.
Duke Gardens is an amazing place. And it's just a wonderful place to go in the midst of things because you see young families there, you see older folks there. On a college campus surrounded by 18 to 22-year-olds, it's very easy to forget that there's a world outside of the one that you're currently inhabiting. And just to see kind of life go on and folks from Durham and visitors in the gardens, and then just to be able to walk around, like the Japanese gardens is probably the most tranquil place on Duke's entire campus, and a great place to go and clear your head if you're in the midst of a very busy time. So Duke Gardens definitely worth checking out.
And I'll just add really quickly onto that, pet the dogs. Every semester during finals, Duke will have service dogs come in to the libraries, and it's totally free. Students come in and out all day. Go for your sanity. Just go and pet the dogs. It's amazing. It's like the best.
Even if you have allergies, go.
Even if you have allergies, put on a full bodysuit, pet the dogs. I'm kidding. Be careful, but if you can, really, I think that's something that's really special that Duke does, and it's really worth it.
Great. Okay, so the next question is from Tony. How long did it take you your freshman year to start finding friends and bonding? Also, would you say you had more close friends at Duke or a number of friends all over? I can start this one out. For me, the very first night of a week, we were doing this like carnival fair thing, and I was walking around and everyone's just like saying hi to each other and being super overwhelming and where are you from? And it was great. And I met one of my closest friends to date. His name's Rahul, and he's like the best. And him and I, like, yeah, you know Rahul. And so he's the person that I still talk to and I'm still really good friends with. But then as like weeks kept going, I also became really good friends with a lot of people in my dorm on my floor. Sometimes that's not the case for everybody, but I was really fortunate that my hall was fantastic. So most of the time it doesn't take that long because like someone else said earlier, a lot of these people that are coming to Duke, we're from completely different places, worlds, we don't know each other. Very few people actually come knowing a lot of people. And so everyone just wants to everybody. Anyone else want to touch on that? Sorry?
Oh, no, I forgot to unmute. I forgot to mute myself. No, pretty much what you said is really good. If you want to make friends, do it. They can't just like come to you. You do have to like go out there and like be willing to like be vulnerable, meet people, and everybody remembers this about freshman year is during like the first couple of weeks of school, everyone in the big cafeteria, there's two huge dining halls in the East Campus. The East Campus is the freshman campus. In the East Campus cafeteria, the dining halls, and everybody just sits with random people. Like you just like go up to table, hey, can I sit there? And like, eventually as the year goes on, certain groups, like certain friend groups start just staying with each other. But just take advantage of that time, like talk to people. Don't mention your SAT scores. Nobody likes that person. But other than that, no, it's not too difficult. If you want to meet friends, if you want to have friends, you're going to have them.
So the next question we have is, what is one thing you would change about Duke? Anyone want to touch on this one? No? I'll go first then. I guess for me, I think Duke students, because it's like the top 10%, like everyone that comes in is a ridiculous overachiever. Like you just lived your entire high school life thinking, I will do everything and I will succeed at everything and I will get into Duke, and you do. And you kind of carry that mentality into college. And sometimes it's not the healthiest just because Duke is already super intense. And so I guess one thing I would change is maybe having just like the community be more like calm about things. So I feel like everyone kind of comes in and has this idea that like you're going to be perfect at everything. And I don't think it's like other people making you feel that way. It's a lot of internal, where a lot of people themselves are just feeling disappointed in themselves because all of a sudden you're not getting straight A's. And when you come to Duke, that's not a reality for 90% of people. It's really not. And it's okay, because you don't want to have straight A's if you're not really like learning. It's about challenging yourself. And so I think like something I would really want is for incoming first years to know that don't expect yourself to be perfect. Don't expect yourself to like know everything, do great in classes, make all the best friends, and then also simultaneously get all the sleep you need. Because there's an adjustment period, you know? And so you're going to need to adjust, and things will eventually fall into place, but it's not going to be perfect always. And that's great because it exposes you to new things and it pushes you to meet new people. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing I would want. Does anyone else want to touch on that? Okay. The next question is from Madeline. What do you wish you would have known as an incoming first year? Well, I kind of answered that. Someone else could say something else though. What experiences should all freshmen participate in? Matt?
I think Soren, you'll be able to hop in on this in a second. I had some serious FOMO after missing out on going to basketball games. So I would say like, yes, it is a big sacrifice to stand in line like all day to go to a game, but it is so worth it. Just like the ambiance, the environment within Cameron Indoor Stadium where we play our games is incredible. The band, the cheers, like everything. So don't miss out on that just because you think like, oh no, I have to sacrifice my Saturday or whatever. Like it is an amazing experience like no else.
Perfect. So we have to close out soon. So we're gonna do. We have a lot of questions and wanting advice for regular decision students on their applications and questions about visits and Common App. So I guess each of us could probably maybe give a little bit of advice on how you handled Common App and regular decision if you did it. For me, I guess the biggest advice I've always given to people and have also received is just to really be yourself with everything. Don't try and like put on like a certain persona that is not yourself, because Duke really wants passionate people that are interested in what they're really interested in, because that's what makes you really special. So, and I think that things work out in a really great way, because I applied to so many different schools and ended up at Duke, and I might not have thought that that would have been the best place for me at one time in my life, but then coming here, I realized it definitely was like the best place for me. Soren, do you want to give your regular decision advice?
I'll add on to that. So I think you guys have about like 10, 11 more days if it's the same deadlines as it was when I applied. You regular decisioners, your essays are probably like somewhat written or not at all if you're anything like me. So pretty much what Haisa said, do be yourself. Duke is not looking for a certain type of student. Keep that in mind. Duke is not looking for somebody that hits X, Y, and Z on their applications. They're looking for somebody who's going to add to our school. If you are that person, make that clear in your paper. What are you going to do? How are you going to contribute to this, to our culture here?
Yeah, if I can just hop on this like regular decision. I was a regular decisions admit and decision student, and I would just say Duke may not be looking for a certain type of student, but Duke is definitely looking for people who can write. So do proofread your essays. Yes. Do not skimp on that, and make sure that they are in very, very good shape, because that is like one of the your application will be looked at for honestly like probably all of 20 minutes maybe, and don't mess up on the like basic stuff, because they will penalize you for that. Yeah. Unfortunately.
And then I do want to just add really, really quickly, because we're going to move on just to the closing. But if you get the chance to come to Duke for Blue Devil Days, so Blue Devil Days are, I don't think we've talked about this yet, But pretty much the day where all possible incoming, so possible new students come to campus, so you guys who we're talking to right now, so it's a day, we have I think 2 or 3 weekends in the spring semester. Everybody comes to campus, kind of you guys can sit in on classes, you can see kind of what the culture on our campus is like, talk to some upperclassmen around to talk to if you want to reach out to us. But what I do say, the advice I would give, because when I came to my Blue Devil days, I had decided I was going to another school. I was like, Duke, I don't care how good it is, I'm going to this other school. The second I stepped on campus for Blue Devil days, and after talking to some people, I was just like, this is my school. And I am so thankful for my decision every single day. I'm like more and more thankful for it. So just pay attention to, how do the students make you feel? How do you feel walking through campus? Do you see yourself here? Do you see yourself, walking with a cup of coffee to class, or a cup of coffee to class in the mornings? Or do you think, because Duke isn't for everybody, and we're here and we love it, but honest to God, you might be happier somewhere else. Don't come here just because, it's more prestigious than the next school. Come here because you want to be a part of our community, and because you feel like we can make you grow as much as you can make us grow. So that's my advice. That is truly my advice to you. I think we're moving on. Haisa?
Oh, wait. Anya's going to give her advice first.
Oh, Anya.
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone said so far. I think one of the biggest things about the application is, the essays and the chance to really show what you bring to the table besides just your SATs or your ACTs or your GPA. One of my favorite questions was the why Duke question. You get this with so many different colleges, but honestly, I had to sit back and ask myself, why Duke? For me, why do I see myself at Duke? Like what Soren was saying, why do I want this place to become my home? Why do I want these people to become my family? And it's a good way to show that you've done a little research as well. The advice I got over and over again my senior year of high school was make yourself stand out. I remember thinking, oh my God, Duke's going to get thousands of super qualified applicants. Why would they look at me? And it's honestly a place where you can say, this is what Duke is bringing to the table, for me and why I want it, but also this is why I would fit here. When it comes to decisions for irregular decision students in the spring, it's a huge part of your decision is about fit and making sure that you feel comfortable in the school that you're in. And so really make sure it's not just, oh, I love the architecture or the basketball. I guarantee you every single student on campus really does love those things. But what about you fits so well at Duke that you can really bring to the table? And I think the essays are a perfect way to talk about that.
Great. So we're going to close out with each of us are going to give 3 words for how we would describe Duke. I'll start. For me, it would be home, passion, and curiosity. And whoever wants to go next. Am I going to have to call on someone?
I can go. Yeah. I think my words would be family, enthusiasm, and spirit.
Matt, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I was waiting to go last because I'm going to cheat and not exactly answer the question. I want to say 3 words to describe Duke students, and not just Duke. So I would say Duke students are driven, humorous. I think we've got a collectively great sense of humor, and we're change makers. Duke students tend to see problems, issues, challenges, opportunities in the world, and want to change things in the world to better take advantage of those.
Honestly, God, this is the most difficult question that we've been asked. I would say Blue Devils. Can that be 2 words? Blue Devils. And then creativity is really, this is difficult. I never even thought about
How
this
about
question.
go Blue Devils?
Go Blue Devils! Thank you. See, that's why Matt is a Duke student, you guys. Oh my gosh, that's funny. And yeah, go Blue Devils. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Soren. So this talk was super popular. We had a lot of viewers, so we might be doing another one just because as time permits. There's so many questions, and I'm sure you guys didn't get them all answered. But if you cannot wait, please feel free to message all of us on our Duke Students Instagram, on the Snapchat, Facebook, wherever you have see us. You can message us, and we really do see everything, and we go through it as much as possible and can answer any questions you guys have. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us, and have a great, happy holidays and winter break. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you on campus next year.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.